If you'd followed my videos in the past, you know that I've had an interest in touch control. I spent 35 years as a pilot in the airlines, and before that I was a military pilot. I've flown a lot of general aviation. So when I took up simming as a hobby, I was very interested in trying to make things as realistic as possible. One of the things that I've grown to love is Air Manager. It's a program to create 2D panels, and I love touch screens. But there were some limitations. I'm going to show. I've just kind of built a panel with some stuff here. Now I have the GPS with version 3.0. Some people were curious about how that could be done. I can tell you that what I've done is made a series of three different panels. There's a panel here, a little one across the top, and a panel there. So therefore I have three panels creating the appearance, and that way we have the whole. As you may know, in version 3.0 of Air Manager, there's no way to create a transparency yet. So the only solution was to just, so this panel that I have here is basically a panel here on the left, a panel below the GPS where I've put another control, and then the GPS. In the X-plane, GPS is showing through that opening between the things. Now, right now I have it set up for just basic touch control, and if you've done any work with Air Manager, you know that the way that works is that you can touch a dial, and it'll be highlighted in blue, and then if you put your finger outside that, you can move that knob and change, in this case, the heading select. You can see the heading bug. Wait, what do I have? I've got the speed select, so you can see the speed value going up, see the cursor going up and down. And there's a button in the middle that you have to touch, and if you touch it just right, which it's very hard to do because it's small here, it will sync. You can see I can't quite get that button because it's so small. Now I have this master control panel, autopilot control panel, quite small, but I've made some of the other things larger. For example, here on the radios, there's two bands. If you touch the outer band, or there's the inner band, and you can see that as I touch it, I can rotate my finger around it and create the change of frequency. And if I can try to find this small there, it's hard to find, but there's the outer band, and that's very hard to find, but you can see now I'm changing the whole frequency values. Now, of course, buttons are no problem. Buttons are easy to operate. Here, I'll touch a button, a message button on the GPS. You can see that works just fine. So buttons aren't a problem in touch control. Now, when it first came out, if you're using the non-touch control version of Air Manager, what happens is as you put the mouse over a button, as it hovers over a button, the scroll wheel becomes effective to change that value. So what I was doing initially is trying to find a way to make these knobs a little easier to use before they had good touch control. And with a touch screen monitor, I could still touch the buttons and they would work pretty much like a mouse click, but it was impossible to really to do the knobs. You'd have to touch just in the right spot many times for each frequency change. So what the solution I had was I took a mouse encoder and put it in a box with a knob on it and used that as kind of like and if you look at my old videos, you can see that it's an early version of the knob. And if you've seen my more recent videos, as we gained Arduino capabilities for a manager, I built a little knob to control an encoder. The encoder had an inner knob and an outer knob, or a large knob and a smaller knob, concentric knobs. And then it had a push button on the end. And what I did was programmed it so that if I could touch a knob, it would highlight it in yellow, and then that would allow me to manipulate things. Now, some of the downsides of trying to do this with the touch control is that even if you get as you can see here, that's a really small band to try to find to change the frequency there. And then there's an inner knob, and then there's a button right in the middle. that's hard to find. Now I've got this quite big. It's much bigger than the real GPS. But one of the disadvantages of if you do select, if I can get, there we go. If I go around it, fine, but look what happens. If I go down below it, it doesn't work. So you have to pay some attention to keeping the flow around the item. And it does work pretty well, but I just didn't feel like it was realistic from all my years in the cockpit. So what I'm going to do now is show you that we've created on, I finally was able to convince the programmer at Air Manager to come up with a version that would have this functionality built in. And the way it works here is I'll show you the devices tab. Here you see the devices tab. When I click that, now it says Knobster, and that's what we're calling this little product, a Knobster. When you select, when you install it, it's simple. You just install some software just with one click, and it installs the Arduino software onto the Knobster, and then it shows up here. And then when you go to a panel, I'm going to select the Eclipse panel here, if I can find it. There it is. If I go over here and scroll down, you can see it has a new parameter. It says Knobster disabled. I'm going to say Knobster A. Okay, so now the Knobster is enabled. Now let's go over here. Now the Eclipse panel is that MCP all the way down. Before I do that, I want to show you the Knobster. Now the Knobster, hang on, I got two versions of it. Here's one that we came up with, and this is a 3D printed thing. It's just the great Elma encoder that has the two knobs and the push button, and then a little printed clamp so that you can clamp it onto a monitor or so on. So it would clamp on something like that, as you can see, and be where it's readily available to you to grab while you're touching the screen. Or if you put it on a monitor, it could be mounted over here too, as you can see. The other thing that I found quite good, at least especially since I have a glass desk here, but it works on any smooth surface. I just took a Garmin Mount. Actually, this is a clone, but it's only about I think it costs $3 if you bought it from China. But it's got the Knobster mounted on that. Didn't have the right size screws, so they're a little bit long. But well, you just put it on there, and you've seen these. Everybody's seen these on various GPSs, and it clamps down with a great amount of force. So now you have the knobs available and the push button function available. That's just another way to mount it. Okay, so everything from the top down here is in this panel should now be enabled. I'm going to touch this little knob here, and you can see now it highlights in yellow. Now I'm just going to grab the knob with my hands here, and since there's only one knob, either the inner or the outer will do the same thing. First I'll do the outer knob, and you can see the speed as I click it. You can hear it clicking. Speed, you can see it's going up and going down. And you notice that it says also push to sync. So if I push the button, I'm going to push it now. You watch the cursor will jump back down to 0 because that's our current speed. Same thing with heading. I'll hit heading. Touch the heading button, and then you can see the heading bug moving ever so slowly, but it is moving. And I can use the inner knob or the outer knob to affect that change. So I can use the outer knob, inner knob, and then if I hit the button, it'll just sync right back up. Okay, so you know how that works. Now what I've done is I put two HSIs down here. Now the way this works is that the HSI, is same thing. If I touch let's touch the coarse needle since it's more obvious. And I'll touch that, and I'm going to grab the knob here, and I'm just going to turn it. Now see, you can hear the clicks and see how slowly that moves. And that even if I turn it really fast, it doesn't move very fast. It takes a long time. Now, if on this one, what they've added is a new parameter, optional parameter that can automatically accelerate dial movement, and you can set that. It's just a matter of adding another digit. It's 1 to 5, I think, are the values that can be put in there. It's an integer value. Actually, it's not an integer; it's a float. But you can put fractional numbers in there too. But I have it set for 3. Now this one I have set for 1, so it's no change. Now I'm going to touch on this one right here, I've set the acceleration. So I'm going to do the same thing, but see, if I turn the knob quite fast, it goes fast. But then watch what happens if I turn it relatively slow. If I turn it relatively slow, it moves in a fairly slow, easy click, click, click. You can set 1 degree. But if you want to take this from, let's say, straight up here, and set it straight up. If I want to take it all the way to the bottom, it's just 4 clicks. I can do that, and then I can fine tune it down here when I need to. So that's a real nice feature that's added, and it was kind of necessitated by the add of the Knobster. The cool thing is, though, that acceleration also applies to using touch control on dials or knobs. So that's cool. Now I'm going to show you just a couple more examples here. Now, if I touch, I used to have to touch the right part of this dial here. Now I can just touch the dial. Well, I didn't turn that on, did I? Well, let me turn it on here. Let's go over here and let's turn that on. That's the below GPS panel, I called it. And I'm going to turn Knobster on. I'm also going to turn the GPS left Knobster on, and the right, or the left and right Knobster on for the GPS. Of course, the top and bottom panels, this bottom panel and this top panel, it really doesn't matter because there's no dials in that, so it's not necessary. So now let's see what happens. I touch the frequency, and I can grab my knob here, and I can it's just awesome. I mean, I've flown, like I said, for many, many years, and I find that one extra step of touching it is no big deal. It forces you to reach and touch the control like you would. But I think for flight training, this is fantastic because, just by having this knob in a handy location, you can touch the screen to get the control you want, and then you have a knob that you can twist just like a normal knob. And it doesn't take any extra mental energy to track a circle around the point like you do when you're using touch control. Then you can see, of course, the frequency can be flopped real easily, and I can touch this other knob and grab my knob and do whatever I need to do there too. Again, the GPS, that knob is fairly complicated. It has it has an outer knob, an inner knob, and a button in the middle. So we touch that, and you can see we've selected that knob. I'm going to turn, you can see we're setting the VOR frequency there. It's the active one there. And I'm going to just turn the big knob, and I'm setting the whole frequency. Turn the little knob, I'm setting the smaller values. And then if I push the button at the end, if I just push the button, I'm changing it from VOR to Comm. So by pushing that button, I can make that swap and then change the frequencies as necessary. So it's very, very good. The same thing over here on this side. We touch the, and I can change pages, or actually chapters, and then I can change pages with the inner knob. And if I want to select the cursor, I have to, let's get a flight plan up there or something. I'll just push the button, just like on the real GPS, and then we select the cursor. So anyway, that's how it works. I think it's an awesome addition to Air Manager. I think the acceleration of the dials is really useful. And let me show you one more panel. I'm going to close these, and I'm going to open one of the pay panels, the Cessna 172 SP pay panel. First, let me show you one more thing, though. I'm going to put up a Boeing 737 radio comm stack and show you how this works. Again, Knobster enabled, so touch a knob, and we can set it and change the numbers just the same way, just by grabbing the Knobster and turning the small knob or the large knob. But I wanted to show you one thing here is how switches work. Rotary switches also work. So if I grab this knob and I turn it 1 click left, you can see the knob is changing 1 click. Turn it off, 1 more click to the left. 1 click, 2 clicks, 3 clicks, 4 clicks. So same thing here. You can see that if I turn the, it's kind of hard to see it due to the highlight. but that's not that difficult to see on in real life. It's the highlight looks a little bit brighter here, but you can see turning it on and off. It's great because switches just, you know, it just feels so natural to click one. And of course, in this case, since there's only one knob, there's not layers, you can use the inner or the outer knob to facilitate the change that you want to change. So one click, two click, so on. So it's just one, it's just click, click, click. It's very, very realistic to operate the knobs too. So that was what I wanted to show you. Now let me show you some, again, the one more panel. And this is the one that costs, it costs $10, I think, but it works the same way. The thing is, these radios are pretty small. That knob, there's no way you'd be able to find, you can see the size of my finger. There's no way I'd be able to find the correct spot, or if I do, it's going to be difficult. But if I touch it, now I got the knob to make the setting, and of course, even though buttons are small, it's easy to catch those buttons. So there we go. I'd hit the wrong button, but there we go. Trying to look through this iPhone while I do it. At any rate, you can see that it works like that. We can set the heading. Now, since these are closed source, they haven't been modified with acceleration, but we'll be doing that shortly. I'm going to get in there and try to add the acceleration to these so that you'll have the accelerated heading control, whatever, altimeter, baro set. You can see we set the barometer there, and you can see it, the Colesman window, the movement there. The OBS, same thing. You can see how that works. So it really is any dial with this one small thing, which I think with SimWare kits we're going to make this a kit that you can build initially, and we'll sell you the parts. This little casing is right now a 3D printed thing, but it may eventually be injected and molded. But it's fairly simple. It just has a small circuit board and an Arduino Nano, and then a nice ELMA encoder, which is where most of the cost of the kit would be. But stand by for more information on that. We're going to be taking a copy of this, the Knobster and the software, to the Flight Sim Expo in June to Las Vegas, so that if you want to stop by the booth there at SimWare Kits, we'll be demoing the beta version of Air Manager. And the next version, 3.4, will have these features incorporated. Right now this is 3.4 beta. But anyway, wanted to make that, I want to show you what we were doing on that, show you what a neat little device the Knobster is. The Knobster is just a simple little hardware, and it has almost no parts at all, and it's very foolproof. Just solder a few solder joints and solder the circuit boards together, and with the encoder, and you pretty much got it made. And it so far seems to work very well. So I'm just pleased. This has been kind of something that I've been eager to have for a long time, because I think the guys who want to do serious flight training and don't want to spend a fortune and don't want to always be on the same airplane, you can take an Air Manager touchscreen. Very little investment. A $200 to $300 touchscreen in the Knobster, which probably, well, certainly you could build it for under $100. And then you have essentially touch buttons in you know, of course, you know, the other additions that were added to is sliders and scroll wheels and so on. That stuff was all added in version 3.0. And then the flaps, we can set the flaps down, kind of drag them down and drag them back up. So that, with all those and all the buttons that can be operated just by touch, it's pretty darn close to the real airplane with a very minimal cost. So I'm a real fond believer in this technology, and I'm excited that the Knobster has finally become a reality, and should be available pretty soon. Thanks for watching. Love to hear your comments about this, and I hope you'll be interested in following up on this. I think for guys who don't want to build a complete cockpit, I think buying a touch monitor to use with your visuals and having the Knobster gives an awful lot of capability for a decent price. Take care. Thanks for watching.